She's just a wrench-turning grandma. They laughed. Too old, too slow, too stubborn to quit. They didn't know she'd once flown that same A-10 into fire and brought 9 Marines home on one landing gear. So when 43 soldiers were trapped and no pilot left to answer the call, Granny reached for her flight suit and reminded them why they once called her Lightning. Before we begin, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Welcome to Grateful Stories, where tales of compassion and kindness are told. Let's uncover what really happened. Shaw Air Force Base woke slowly that Monday morning. A light breeze rolled across the tarmac, the kind that smelled faintly of jet fuel and rusted ambition. Inside Hangar Bravo 3, the only sound was the steady click of a ratchet wrench, echoing off metal walls. She was already working when I arrived. Colonel Dana Whitaker, retired, technically stood beneath the worn belly of a decommissioned A-10 Warthog, sleeves rolled, hair silver and tied back in a regulation bun. Most folks didn't call her Colonel anymore. Around here, she was just Granny Wrench. I'd only been stationed at Shaw for 3 weeks, freshly promoted to tech sergeant, still trying to figure out who was who and where to stand. And from the moment I stepped into Bravo 3, it was clear Whitaker didn't belong. Not because she lacked skill, but because no one else seemed to see it. Her name tag read D. Whitaker, Technician, the kind of tag you stitched on coveralls, the kind you didn't salute, but something about the way she moved, deliberate, unshaken, like every bolt told a story. It made me stop. The Warthog she worked on, tail number 76805, was scheduled to be stripped and shipped to the boneyard by week's end. It had served its time, just like her. Cody Banks, one of the younger staff sergeants, leaned against a tool chest not 10 feet away, sipping bad coffee from a foam cup. "Hey, Granny," he called out loud enough for the whole hangar to hear. "You find the manual yet, or still guessing which end of the wrench goes where Aiden Shaw snickered beside him? Might take her all week to pop the canopy. Hope she brought snacks." Whitaker didn't flinch. She just kept working, her gloved hands sliding beneath the engine, cowling with surgical precision. To them, she was a fossil in coveralls, too slow, too old, too stuck in her ways to matter. I'd been in hangars long enough to know the smell of disrespect, and that morning, it hung thick in the air. Master Sergeant Rick Dunbar, our supervisor, walked in a few minutes later, saw Whitaker still working on the same panel, and scowled. "Keeps up like this," he muttered to no one in particular. "We'll be scrapping this plane after the sun goes cold." Dana looked up only once. "I'm following the checklist." "Sir, hydraulics on this tailplane are sensitive. You rush it, you damage the lines." Dunbar scoffed. "We're not building clocks. Whitaker, strip the thing and move on." Then he turned and walked away. No one stood up for her. Not that morning. Not yet. But I watched how she didn't react, didn't defend herself, didn't fire back. That silence was its own kind of strength. Later that day, I passed her near the parts catalog room. Her coveralls were oil-streaked, her boots scuffed, but her eyes were different. Sharp, still scanning, still calculating, like a pilot doing mental checklists long after the bird's been grounded. And that's when I started digging. Not out of suspicion, but curiosity. Who was Dana Whitaker? Really, because she didn't carry herself like some washed-up tech. And the way she treated that A-10, gentle, reverent, almost protective, you'd think it had saved her life. Turns out it had. It happened in Kunar Province, Afghanistan. Back in 2003, Whitaker flew KAS close air support for a pinned-down Marine unit. Call sign Ironclad. Bad terrain, bad intel, and worse weather. They were getting torn apart by enemy fire. Every other bird had waved off. Visibility was zero. Radio chatter was screaming. And then one voice came through. "This is Lightning. I've got eyes." They say her A-10 took 17 hits from small arms and 1 from an RPG. She limped it back on 1 working landing gear. Saved all 9 Marines. That mission earned her a 3rd Distinguished Flying Cross. But here, Here at Shaw, nobody remembered, or worse, nobody cared. They saw gray hair and calloused hands, and that was the whole story. By Wednesday, the jokes had gotten meaner. Cody brought a kitchen timer, started clicking it loudly every time she removed a bolt. 2 minutes per screw. At this rate, she'll finish before Christmas. She still said nothing. I asked her during break why she didn't report them. She shrugged. I've survived RPG fire and bad coffee in Kandahar. This is just noise. That night, I stayed late. I saw her from across the hangar, alone, wiping down the cockpit glass. She paused a moment, resting her hand against the frame like it was someone's shoulder. Not a machine, a memory. I couldn't help it. I stepped closer. You okay, ma'am? She didn't turn, just nodded. This bird flew hard, carried more than it should have, deserves better than a junk pile. Her voice wasn't bitter, just tired. And in that moment, I stopped seeing her as the old lady. I saw her for who she truly was. A warrior, still standing, still fighting, even when no one saluted anymore. On Thursday, Master Sergeant Dunbar ordered her to increase speed. Corporate wants the teardown done by Friday. No exceptions. He barked. She reminded him gently that rushing would compromise the salvage parts. He cut her off. You're not here to give lectures. You're here to turn wrenches. Or do I need to remind you that afternoon? I caught Cody fiddling near her workstation. Something about the torque values on her log sheet didn't add up. I confronted him quietly. He just smiled. Maybe she's slipping. Happens with age. It burned me up. But I didn't say anything to Dunbar. Not yet. That evening, after everyone left, I found Whitaker standing in front of an old locker. Inside, neatly hung and untouched for years, was her flight suit, the patches still bright, the name Whitaker stitched in bold across the chest. She reached out, touched it briefly, and then closed the locker without a word. People say respect is earned, but some people earn it twice, once in combat and once again in silence. And Colonel Dana Whitaker was about to remind us all that just because someone walks slower doesn't mean they've forgotten how to fly. By Friday morning, the jokes had become routine. Every step Dana took around Hangar Bravo 3 felt like walking through a gauntlet of sneers and whispers. Cody Banks had printed out a fake senior slow tech badge and taped it to her locker. Aiden Shaw laughed like it was the best joke he'd ever seen. Granny Wrench has got the record now, Cody told the crew. 47 minutes to unscrew one panel. A new base legend. Dunbar didn't stop them. If anything, he seemed amused. Long as she finishes by Friday, he muttered. I don't care if she counts bolts with an abacus. I kept watching, kept biting my tongue, but inside it boiled, because I saw how Dana moved. I saw how her fingers checked every latch twice, how she whispered numbers to herself to double confirm torque specs. That wasn't slowness, that was precision. But precision didn't earn applause here, only speed. That afternoon, I walked over to her workstation. It took me a moment to work up the nerve. Ma'am, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for the way some of the guys have been acting. Dana looked up from her hydraulic chart, her eyes calm. It's not the first time. Sergeant Miller, and probably won't be the last. Still, I wanted her to know she wasn't alone. If there's anything you need, I'm happy to help. Off the record. She studied me for a long moment, like she was searching for something in my face. Then she nodded. You know what a closed-loop servo valve looks like? I grinned. I do now. For the rest of that shift, I shadowed her. And I learned more in 4 hours than I had in 3 years of maintenance school. She spoke softly, never once bragging. But when she explained the inner workings of the A-10's redundant flight systems, I realized this wasn't textbook knowledge. This was lived experience. These birds, she said, patting the frame, were designed to bring people home, not just the pilots, everyone. But not everyone appreciated that kind of wisdom. When I mentioned to Dunbar that I was helping her double-check pressure lines, he shut it down immediately. You've got your own assignments. Miller, let the dinosaur do hers. That night, I came back to Bravo 3 after hours to return a tool. What I found made my stomach turn. Dana's toolbox was open, tools scattered. Her torque sheets had been altered, ink scratched over, numbers changed, and worse. The critical mounting bolts she'd logged as complete had been tampered with, slightly loosened, just enough to raise questions if found. It wasn't an accident, it was sabotage. I waited until morning to tell her. She didn't get angry. She didn't curse. She just knelt beside the box and started sorting her tools in silence. These were my own set, she said quietly, holding up a worn snap-on wrench. Had them since '85. Carried them through 4 bases and 2 wars. I told her we should report it. File a formal complaint? She nodded. Already did. Yesterday. And she sighed. Dunbar said maybe I'm just getting forgetful in my old age. I clenched my fists. But Dana didn't seem surprised. This isn't about me, Aaron. It's about the bird. I'll finish what I started. But the next insult came from higher up and louder. A group from another unit was touring the hangar, visiting NCOs and techs from Fort Drum. While they walked past, Cody made sure his voice carried, "Y'all met Granny, yet she says she used to fly these things. Like actually fly. Says her call sign was Lightning. Cute. Right. That name, Lightning." One of the older master sergeants in the visiting group stopped mid-step. "Wait, what did you just say?" Cody laughed. "Yeah, I know. Total fantasy. Right. Probably watched too many old war movies." But the master sergeant wasn't laughing. His expression turned to stone. "You said Whitaker, Dana Whitaker." Cody blinked. "Yeah." Why the man didn't answer. He just walked away fast, already pulling out his phone. Something shifted in the air that moment. I felt it. Even Cody seemed to feel it. That evening, the hangar was quiet. Most of the crew had gone home, but Donna stayed behind, as always. I did too. She didn't know I was watching when she opened the locker again. Her hands reached up slowly, brushing the edge of her flight suit. The name tape still read Whittaker in bold black letters. The patches, old but untouched, shined in the fluorescent light. She held the sleeve for a moment, just long enough to remember. Then she let it fall and closed the locker door gently. As she turned away, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not defeat, not sadness, resolve. Like she knew something the rest of us didn't. Like a storm was coming and she'd be the one to fly into it. The next morning, she was the first to arrive. Torque wrench in hand, flight logs open, hydraulic lines labeled and clean. She worked without speaking, but something about the way she moved sharper, more deliberate, told me she was done letting this place ignore her. I asked if she needed help. She just gave me a small smile. "I think the bird's nearly ready." And I didn't know then what she meant, but I would. We all would, because lightning never asks permission. It just strikes. The call came at 3:47 a.m. The shrill buzz of Dana's secure line cut through the silence like a blade. She was already halfway out of bed before the second ring. "This is Whitaker," she answered, voice steady despite the hour. "Dana, this is Colonel Mark Dempsey, 12th Air Support Command. We've got a situation." Her feet hit the floor. "Go ahead." Forward Operating Base Ironclad, Kunar Province. 43 American soldiers pinned down. Triple contact. Armor support incoming from the north. They've requested immediate close air support. She was already pulling on her pants. What about the 924th or the Red Tails out of Ramstein unavailable? Their birds are grounded or deployed. Our last qualified A-10 pilot just rotated back to Germany. We've got aircraft. No one to fly them. Dana's keys jingled in her hand as she grabbed them. "I'll be on base in 20. The road to Shaw Air Force Base was dark, nearly deserted. But in Dana's mind, it was daylight already. Maps, radio channels, terrain memory from 1,000 missions ago. Hangar Bravo 3 was lit up when she arrived. Floodlights danced across 4 A-10s in various states of disrepair. 3 were clearly non-operational, but one still stood intact, tail number 769805. The one she'd been disassembling all week. She walked straight toward it, toolbox in hand, eyes already scanning. Colonel Dempsey was waiting near the center of the hangar, with Major Rachel Monroe at his side. Monroe looked barely 30, sharp, crisp, rattled. "Whitaker," Dempsey said, wasting no time. "Is it flyable?" Dana didn't hesitate. "Give me 2 hours and a good crew, Chief. She'll be combat ready." Monroe frowned. "That aircraft is scheduled for decommission. We've already stripped non-essential systems." Dana nodded. "And none of those systems affect flight integrity. The avionics are intact. Hydraulics checked. Fuel tanks hold pressure. GIU-8 is loaded and logged. I know this bird. I know her inside out." Dempsey looked her in the eye. "The real question is, can you fly it? I've been maintaining my certs through the contractor test flight program. I'm FAA certified, commercial, instrument rated, and for the last 6 months, I've been doing test flights on this bird." Monroe raised an eyebrow. "That's different from flying into a hot zone." Dana didn't flinch. "I've flown into worse." For a long moment, Dempsey said nothing. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Then lightning flies." Words spread quickly, faster than orders. By 5 a.m., the hangar was full. Airmen who'd mocked her just days ago now stood quietly along the walls, watching her prep the aircraft like it was resurrection. I was there. So was Cody. He walked over, hands shaking, face pale. "Ma'am, I didn't know. I didn't mean." Dana cut him off gently. "Just do your job. Sergeant, we've got lives to save." Her flight suit still fit, worn at the edges. Patches faded, but the name Whitaker still bowled across the chest. She zipped it up without fanfare, climbed into the cockpit with the ease of someone who'd never left. I handed her the last checklist myself. She looked me straight in the eye. "Thanks, Miller. Stay safe." The GAU-8 cannon hummed to life beneath her. The instrument panel glowed green. Colonel Dempsey's voice came over the radio. "Lightning, this is Shaw Control. You are cleared for combat launch. Runway 21 left. Godspeed." Outside, the air was still. Then the Warthog's twin engines roared to life. The sound wasn't just noise. It was memory. Power. Purpose. Dana throttled up, and with one final nod to the crew below, she released the brakes. The bird surged forward. Tires screamed. Dust kicked. And then she was airborne, cutting through the South Carolina dawn like she'd never stopped flying. We stood there, all of us, watching until she disappeared into the horizon. None of us spoke, because we knew we just witnessed something impossible. And it wasn't over yet. Over the comms, I could still hear her voice, calm and clipped. "Shaw, this is Lightning, en route to Ironclad. ETA, 45 minutes. No one cheered, no one laughed. We just listened and hoped, because sometimes the best way to silence doubt is to take the sky and remind the world who you are." The sun hadn't yet risen over the mountains of Kunar when Lightning reached the valley. Dana flew low, too low for comfort, but perfect for what needed to be done. Beneath her, FOB Ironclad was barely holding. Smoke columns rose from the ridgelines. Radio chatter crackled with panic. "Lightning, this is Viper 6. We're getting chewed up out here. Armor moving in from the east." "Can you see us? I've got you," Dana replied, her voice clear. "Mark your positions with orange smoke. Hold tight." Her first pass was all reconnaissance. She read the battlefield like a map drawn into fire and dust. Machine gun nests blinked in the rocks. Tracer fire arced from tree lines. The second pass wasn't quiet. The GAU-8 cannon spun to life, unleashing a thunderous burst that tore through enemy positions like paper. Ground troops on both sides froze at the sound. Some called it the voice of God. Others just called it lightning. Dana didn't pause. She pulled into a tight turn, spotted two tanks pushing toward the southern flank, and dropped altitude. Viper 6, you've got armor at your 5 o'clock. Engaging. She fired one Maverick missile, direct hit, fireball, then a second. Another tank vaporized. The third tank crew abandoned ship. They knew better. Armor threat neutralized. She radioed. Prepare for evac. Rescue choppers moved in. But the ridge wasn't clear yet. Dana rolled into another pass, laying down suppressive fire to cover the medics. She could see them now, tiny figures sprinting through open ground, pulling wounded men into Blackhawks. Her fuel gauge screamed warnings, but she didn't turn back. Lightning, this is Rescue 7. Final loads away. Mission complete. She exhaled, then looked down. Both fuel lights were solid red. Lightning, status Shaw base asked through the static. I'm running on vapors, Dana replied. Not going to make it back on 2 engines. Dempsey came on the line. Can you divert to Jalalabad negative? Too far. I'll dead stick it. The comms went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Back at Shaw, we watched it unfold on the live feed. A tiny green blip tail number 76805 losing altitude over eastern Afghanistan. I didn't breathe. None of us did. She came in shallow, no power, no backup, just physics, training, and a whole lot of heart. And then, impossibly, the wheels touched down, no bounce, no drag, just a smooth, perfect glide onto a barren strip of asphalt surrounded by stunned ground crews. She'd done it. No one said a word in the hangar. We just watched the screen as her canopy opened, and she climbed out, dust-covered, calm, alive. Lightning had landed. She was back. Hours later, they flew her home. By the time she returned to Shaw, the entire base had gathered at the runway. Hundreds of boots in formation. Officers, enlisted, civilians, even techs from other hangars. The moment she stepped off the transport, the place erupted in applause. No orders, no cue, just thunderous respect. Cody Banks was the first to reach her, tears in his eyes, voice cracking. Ma'am, I didn't know. I didn't see you. Dana put a hand on his shoulder. Now you do. Make sure you see the next one. That night, Hangar Bravo 3 became hallowed ground. They didn't scrap the aircraft. They repainted her. Across the fuselage, in bold white Lightning 01, heritage aircraft. Beneath the cockpit, 43 silver stars, one for every soldier brought home. Dana didn't ask for it. She didn't need it. But the rest of us needed to remember. She was offered a choice: full retirement or stay as senior advisor for legacy airframes. She chose to stay. I've still got work to do, she said simply. Master Sergeant Rick Dunbar was reassigned within a week. No press, no ceremony, just a quiet transfer to a logistics desk job in New Mexico. No one protested. And Erin Miller, well, I got promoted, hangar chief, first woman to hold that position at Shaw. My first act, a policy posted above the entry doors. Every person has a story. Learn it before you judge. Donna trained the new crew herself. Young techs, fresh out of school, gathered around her like students around a chalkboard. She taught them how to respect machines, but more importantly, how to respect people. I remember one airman asking why she never told us who she was. She smiled. Planes don't care about medals. They care about hands that know what they're doing. Media outlets caught wind eventually. The footage spread like wildfire. Articles titled "The Last Mission of Lightning." Interviews poured in, but Dana never chased the spotlight. She stayed at her station, wiping oil from the same panel she'd once flown into battle. One morning, I found her staring at a postcard from Afghanistan. It was from Lieutenant Donnelly, one of the men she'd saved. My daughter was born last week. It read, "We named her Dana. Thank you for bringing me home." Dana folded it slowly, didn't speak, just nodded. The legacy of Lightning wasn't just a plane. It wasn't even just a woman. It was a reminder that courage comes quietly, that wisdom doesn't rust, and that sometimes, just sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one you almost didn't notice. Experience never expires. Not when lives are on the line, not when truth needs a voice, and not when an old pilot in a faded flight suit still knows how to answer the call.